Saugus District Elementary Schools will be reopening to in-class instruction tomorrow morning, and it comes as the county's COVID positivity rates continue to drop. Our Mekahlo Medina has more on what the district is doing to keep students and staff safe.
For us, if the school's open, let them go.
Luis Montes de Oca and his wife are more than ready for their little girl to start in-person instruction.
I'm happy that they're going back on the front of the teacher and finally get some normal school going on, even if it's only 2.5 hours.
That's how long each school day will be, as first and second graders start on Monday, preschool and kindergarten later in the week, and the rest of the students by March 4th. This class week will also just include 4 days of physical classroom, 1 day home online, at least through the semester. But not all students will come back. The district is trying to keep classes small to minimize exposure and risk. Some kids will stay home, like Marcel Casillas, 4th grader.
We thought it was a possibility that he could go back, but we found out, unfortunately, that he's not going to be able to go back, which is okay. It's so late into the year, we're okay with keeping him through the rest of the year online.
Parents are actually given the option to keep kids at home or participate in this return. Casillas says she probably would have kept her student home anyway, but understands the need to start the process now.
We are happy that the other kids are going back. The kids need to go back. They need to socialize. They need to be and get used to this new normal.
In Saugus, I'm Mekahlo Medina, NBC4 News.
And Dr. Anthony Fauci weighed in on the importance of getting kids back into school this morning on NBC's Meet the Press.
I've been saying this for months and months, even antedating the CDC guidelines, is that the default position is that we should try to do everything we can to get the children back to school safely for the children and safely for the teachers and other educational personnel. And the CDC guidelines try to delineate the steps where you can do just that.
Dr. Fauci said his daughter is a teacher and has already gone back to school.
COVID-19 testing on the move. Health officials offered up free tests today at their mobile testing unit, and no appointments were needed. Today's event was at the Metro Station on Lancashire in North Hollywood. Tomorrow, the mobile testing site will move to the St. Elizabeth Church on Kittredge Street in Van Nuys. They'll set up on the sidewalk right outside the church from 9 to 3.
Let's go outside right now. I'll show you a live view from Anaheim. We have NBC4 meteorologist David Bigger here now with a check of the first alert forecast. David.
And Kathy, just as expected for today, the winds have shifted locations, now more through our wind-prone areas of Southern California, but the winds are much lighter than what we had over the weekend. We have a little bit of a breeze across the Inland Empire with about a 13-mile-per-hour wind around Riverside. Very light winds around Ontario and Orange County. We still have some of that wind in northern LA County, though, around Santa Clarita, 14-mile-per-hour winds, 8-mile-per-hour winds around Van Nuys, and we're still seeing a little bit of an onshore breeze along some of the coastal areas. Gust-wise, the really gusty spots today have been just your typical wind-prone spots I mentioned, so around Riverside, Van Nuys, Thousand Oaks, Santa Clarita. Really, those are the only spots looking at gusts right now. And as we go through the next couple of days, the winds will continue to get a little bit weaker. The winds, though, are offshore, and that means that it's a warming wind for us. And you can see what that's done to temperatures today. We got into the mid to upper 70s, 78 degrees in Camarillo today, as well as Santa Ana, 77 degrees around Fullerton. Notice how a lot of these inland spots are cooler than the coastal areas. That's what happens when you get that offshore wind. And as we go through the next couple of days, we'll continue to see a picture like this. This is very clear air, all thanks to that offshore wind. Let me show you what we're expecting for tomorrow. One more windy day across the region. The highs will be warmer than what we saw today, and this will actually be the warmest day of the week for most of our region. And then as we get into Tuesday, a light breeze, but it will be cooler. And I've got cooler in quotes because it's not really that cool. I'll show you what we're talking about in a couple of minutes. Back to you.
Sounds good, David. Thank you. If you were driving on the 10 freeway in South LA this morning, you may have noticed this. This was thick smoke from a fire that broke out right along the freeway. The LA Fire Department says it started in a homeless encampment just east of Crenshaw Boulevard there. Crews were able to quickly put it out. We're told nobody was hurt.
And we're getting new details about a woman shot to death in West Athens tonight. Her killer is still out there. We first brought you the story last night at 11. LA County deputies say the woman was actually one of 2 people who were shot. She died before crews could get her to the hospital. As of now, we don't know her name. A man who was also shot was taken to the hospital and did survive. We still don't know what led up to the shooting.
Right now, the search continues for a missing hiker in the Angeles National Forest. 60-year-old Maria Tice was last spotted in the Mount Baldy area last weekend, and yesterday rescue teams from all over Southern California scoured remote areas to search for any sign of her. Tice was last seen below the Iron Mountain summit Saturday, February 13th around noon.
Federal investigators are looking into whether some of Donald Trump's allies may have helped to organize the Capitol Hill riot. A law enforcement source tells NBC News that former campaign advisor Roger Stone is one of the targets. Another is radio show host Alex Jones. The source says charges against the men are unlikely, but that investigators want to get a broad understanding of any possible instigators. Earlier this month, former President Trump was acquitted by the Senate on charges he incited violence at that day at the Capitol.
The Biden administration is pledging to get millions of vaccines administered after they were delayed by last week's massive winter storm. The president plans to visit hard-hit Texas this week as millions there face water and food shortages. NBC's Jennifer Johnson has more.
The winter storm that froze the deep south and left millions without power and water led to another setback, delaying the distribution of millions of COVID-19 vaccines.
We've been able to get about 2 million of those 6 million doses out. We expect to rapidly catch up this week.
This as Congress returns to Washington to try and pass President Biden's $1.9 trillion COVID-19 rescue package. Most Republicans still fighting the price tag.
There's over $1 trillion of money unspent from previous relief bills that were bipartisan. The money's still sitting in a bank account.
The U.S. is now facing another grim milestone, 500,000 Americans killed by the virus. But more vaccines could become available after evidence showing one dose may be enough for people who already had COVID-19.
The data look really quite impressive, that if you've been infected and then you get a single dose, the boost that you get with that single dose is really enormous.
As federal officials get back on track with vaccine distribution, millions in Texas are still facing critical shortages of drinking water and food. Also staggering power bills for residents who opted for variable rate utility plans.
You don't take the steps to provide reliable power, and then you're going to give somebody a bill in the tens of thousands of dollars. That's absolutely outrageous.
President Joe Biden plans to visit Texas as early as this week to assess the crisis after declaring 77 counties disaster areas. Jennifer Johnson, NBC News, Washington.
Changes in the sky, what United Airlines is doing after yesterday's frightening engine failure near Denver.
Plus, getting people in remote and rural communities vaccinated. We'll tell you how the fire department is pitching in San Diego.
And Europe's most active volcano providing quite a show for Italians. You're watching the NBC4 News at 5.
Tonight, the new COVID vaccine hopes vaccinations pick up across the country inside the hunt for those new mutant strains.
We want communities to